G'day everybody, Max right here, and I haven't made one of these types of videos for a very long time, but okay, people are asking me all about the tariffs, what the hell it means, what's it going to mean to Bitcoin price, and it is a complicated situation, and one of my skills, it's what I'm really, really good at, it's why I got so big, why I got so famous, is because I'm really, really good at taking very difficult concepts, distilling them down to something very, very easy to understand, and sharing them with you. So I'll tell you exactly what's going on. It is actually very, very simple. It's just people don't want to hear the answer, people don't want to know what's going on. And so it's really smart people say really stupid things. So I'll give you an example. Ben Shapiro was just on the All In podcast, and he's a really smart guy. I mean, if you think Ben Shapiro is silly, you're just silly. He's a very, very smart guy. But he just said dumb shit like over and over and over again. It was very, very frustrating, and especially around the tariffs. So one of his criticisms was that the rollout of the tariffs was very clumsy. My words, not his, but it was the formula for what the tariffs are is a very blunt instrument. It's not clear. What number did they use? You know, when Trump was in the Rose Garden, he pulled out his big poster. It's like, you know, these guys charge us 43%. These guys charge us 42%. Well, where the hell did you get those numbers? Because those numbers are not the tariff numbers, right? And so, okay, Ben Shapiro is correct. It was a clumsy tool. It was a blunt tool, but it was also everything that it needed to be for the moment. So let's explain what's going on. In what Trump learned in his previous years was that. Well, he's known this for 40 years. You can go back and watch this for a long time. But what he's seen is that other countries do not treat America fairly with regards to trade. And let me give you the history of it. There's a few different components to it. Way back in the day, I mean like just post-World War II, this never happened, by the way. The reason the World War II happened, you'll be familiar, is the Treaty of Versailles from the World War I was put in so many penalties on the loser that it basically created fertile ground for Hitler to rise up, that I'm going to fix all the problems of these evil guys. But basically, World War I created World War II. Okay, as a result of that, America comes along and it's like, okay, well, you know, we kind of like solved this problem. We rescued Europe, and we're not going to repeat the same mistake. We're actually going to be very, very generous, and we're going to help everybody rebuild. So even though European factories are absolutely decimated, and America had all of the production capacity of the world, because, you know, there was no fighting on American soil, you know, America could have just become super big, super strong, and obviously it did. But it actually did a lot of, let's consider it called charity. One of the ways they did it was, you know, prior till then, you would police the naval routes of the world. They would be policed by each individual country. So if you had a merchant ship going from point A to point B, it would have a military escort paid for by that country to do it, or else pirates might get it, etc. America said, we're just going to be the policeman of the world for the entire ocean. Okay, we've got this big navy built now after World War II, and we're not just going to protect us, we're going to protect everybody. And it set forward, you know, that was the first initial baby steps of globalization and massive international trade, and this massive raise in the standard of living, billions of people lifted up out of poverty. That's one example. Another example, a little more poignant to this one, is tariffs. America literally said to many, many countries after World War II, after the Korean War, after Vietnam War, after all of these things, we are going to allow other countries to put big tariffs on us, and we're going to not retaliate. And we're going to do a shit deal. The reason we're going to do a shit deal is because we want you guys to rebuild. You got decimated in a war. We want you to get better, right? Straight up charitable situation. That was America's position. Okay, so we do that, but then no one goes and revisits it for like 70, 80 years, right? And not only that, other countries kind of join in because that's just the way it works. You could also argue there was another component. You could argue, I don't think it's a great argument, but you could argue that to stay on the dollar and leave the US dollar as the reserve currency of the world, America, you got to let everybody trade well, because you've got this advantage of having the reserve currency of the world. So in order to just undo that, like let's go level the playing field a little bit, you've got to be very generous with every country on trade. Okay, so between all of those reasons, it doesn't matter how, why, whatever. It's just gone on for way too long, and even though it was designed to be a short-term thing, but it's just gone on for way too long. The net result is that for those reasons, along with many other reasons, America has got decimated in terms of manufacturing and other things, and that has serious national security implications. Basically, it was America's productive power. It was the fact that we were capitalist that allowed us to outcompete the Nazis on the Western Front, right? Ford got together, all the car makers got together, and we were like, okay, we need Jeeps, we need ships, we need this. And they designed their Jeeps very, very quickly. At the peak of the war, like 44 and 45, the American production capacity was just spitting out these vehicles, armored tanks, and everything else. And they were designed very cleverly. If one part broke, it was a very easy, interchangeable part. And this just absolutely no one else could compete, right? Absolutely no one else could compete. So it's a very, very important part, like that of having manufacturing is an important part of national security. If you don't have it, then other companies can if war starts out, then you don't have the materials to keep your citizens fed, to keep them medicated, to keep the productive capacity building war craft, boats, planes, etc. You're going to get decimated. And so this has just been a huge, huge problem for a very long time. And so, okay, this is a direction we cannot go on forever. That's the thing that I really want everyone to get. The way it was an absolute disaster for America, and it could not go on forever without horrific consequences. So where does that put us? We need to do something better. We need to do something different. How are we going to do it? Okay, there's a million different things you could do. Now I'm going to get into exactly what Trump has done. In his first term, he sees the problems and says, okay, we're going to start trying to fix these things. Starts negotiating with one country at a time. And in the case of China, they sign an agreement, but take a knee and wait out the clock. Biden gets in, and even though they signed the agreement, they completely ignore it. Right? He learned that from the first one. The other thing he learned was it is so complicated that because it's not just tariffs. Tariffs is something that they can talk about on TV and everyone understands what they are, but there's actually a lot of other things. I just heard an example today. I think it was Lutnick on Fox. He said that Korea, for example, there's no McDonald's in Korea. I believe that. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but it's something like this. There's no McDonald's in South Korea. Why is there no McDonald's in South Korea, if that's true? If I'm getting it wrong, I might have got the country wrong. They have agreed to do a deal with us. We take in their cars, we take in Kia cars and other kinds of Korean cars, and they're supposed to take our agriculture. But the problem is, McDonald's fries can't be brought over, at least the way McDonald's, maybe there are McDonald's restaurants, they just can't bring in the fries that they want, something like that. But they can't bring in their fries. Why? Because we couldn't prove the origins of the potato, right? There's a Korean law that says you have to for food safety or whatever, you need to prove where it came from and some criteria that's just impossible to do, right? Something like this. That's a complicated issue, and it's for one tiny little country. And okay, so now what do you do? Like, how do you negotiate that one at a time in a very short amount of time over everything? And there's all these different countries doing it, right? Europe have just killed their own industry with all their stupid regulations and overburden, way too much burden on all of the companies that are there trying to build stuff, right? And they say, well, anyone competing has to do the same thing. And American manufacturers are just like, the rules are too stupid, change too frequently. You've driven your own companies bankrupt. It's better just for us not to be there, and they leave it alone. As a result, huge trade deficits. So this concept, there's tariffs, there's stupid rules, there's a million different ways. Another way they can do it is they can charge like a sales tax. So some countries have like a 20% sales tax. The domestic producers pay the sales tax, and the importers pay the sales tax, right? Both people pay a sales tax, all right? Sales tax come in for all of their goods. So let's say you've got a Ford there and you've got a Toyota there. They both get sold. The consumer pays the tax no matter what. But then the government takes that revenue and then goes and gives as a subsidy to Toyota and say, yeah, just drop your price 20% over here because of our subsidies. Then you pay the 20% tariff. You're neutral. But the American cars, they get the 20% sales tax, okay? All of these examples, it's complicated. There's lots of them, and it is very, very hard to teach, and it's very, very hard to explain to the American public. The attention span of a normal person who's just trying to make ends meet, it's just not there. So that is what is going on. Trump learned that in the beginning there is so many different things that is so complicated that if you try and do this in your same term, you've only got one term to do it, right? If you try and do it, you get bogged down. Someone does it slowly. And they run out the clock and nothing happens. He said this. It just doesn't matter. He didn't say this out loud. Like, I haven't heard him say that. I'm just telling you what he's thinking. He's like, okay, I don't need a particularly sharp tool because it would take 10 years to deal with all of these different countries, understand all of the different ways they hurt American exporters, and try and rectify them all one at a time. I just don't need it. A blunt tool is perfectly okay. I'm going to have these big-ass tariffs on everyone, throw it across the board, and what I wanted them to do is for them all come back and just be fair to us. So there's issues there. What if they all ignore him? What if there is a tariff war? Let's go through all of those possibilities and talk about what he's got in plan to deal with that. So let's talk a little bit about game theory. Let's say, right, looks like maybe I heard Vietnam may be one of the first. So now you've got all these countries, boom, huge tariffs on all of them. And now, and they're all upset and they all can't cope, and it's like, this is the way it's been for 70, 80 years, and we don't want it to change. Of course you don't want it to change. It's been really good for you, but the big dog's telling you it's going to change, so it's going to change. Now you can, what do you got? You can all band together and all put tariffs up, and you like the whole world argue as a union. It's a possibility. And then we're into a tough time, a prolonged tough time, whereby it sucks for their economy, way worse than it does us, but it also sucks for the US economy, and maybe it kind of like, it's worth it to other countries to suffer heavily for years for the sake of making Trump suffer so that eventually he gets voted out, his agenda gets voted out, Democrats come back in 4 years from now, or maybe, so those kinds of things are the issue, right? And maybe that's a strategy, maybe, we'll come to that. What's more, that, how would I say that? Again, it would require, so it's also very, very smart that he did this at the very beginning of his presidency, right? Because what he cares about, and this is, Reagan did this. 1980, he comes in, it's a shit show. He comes in with all these ideas, like libertarian, free market kinds of ideas, but there's a shuffle, there's short-term pain. 82, there is a recession. But by 84, he wins 49 of the 50 states. It's visible. The country's exploding in growth and success. There was a short-term pain, and then it absolutely took off, and he absolutely crushes it in the next election, and he absolutely owns it. That formula is being repeated now. But what can Trump do, and what's likely to happen, let's say, to not be a prolonged tariff war that lasts forever, given that all these countries are incentivized to put up with a lot of pain in order to make this go away, because they don't want this to happen ever again. Well, this is where game theory comes into it, right? Let's just say that one country, their elections in 2 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, and they've got to get themselves elected. They are the individuals that have to survive until this happens, so the politicians getting elected out. All you need, one country, right? Let's say one country comes forward. Vietnam comes in and says, "Okay, we will drop our tariffs on your country, America." What does that mean? They start getting American products. It's a good thing, right? It's not a bad thing. America makes great products. What happens now? Think if you are a producer who is in China, who is in Thailand, who is in Japan, who is in Korea. And it's the same worker pool. It's the same low wages. And if I if I stay in these countries, then I got to pay this huge tariff, and American consumers aren't going to buy it, and I'm out of business. Or I can move into Vietnam, which has just done a deal with Trump that says 0 tariffs in both directions. Now what happens? You will, to quote Ross Perot, you will hear the sucking sound of the jobs and manufacturing capacity leave all of the neighboring countries and get into Vietnam. Other countries see that. What are they going to do? And here it is, game theory. And Trump has not settled this. None of his plan has been stated outright, right? This is what I'm telling you. This is what people think in the background. Maybe it doesn't. They've decided it doesn't go so well. They've decided it's too complicated for a mass audience. I have a very sophisticated audience. I get to talk about these things. But this is what's happening in the background. So, what do we have? We have a situation where the countries will be competing against each other as one falls, the next one falls, the next one falls, the next one falls. And I have no doubt that in the background, Trump is saying the first country that comes and breaks the blockade, let's put a better word. It's a strike. It's like all the other countries will get together as a union and strike. They'll picket America. They'll strike against America. That's what a trade war is. Hey guys, if we all band together and we don't buckle, America will have to cave, or he'll destroy their economy. We'll suffer pain too, and the problem we get is we'll just go away because Trump will be voted out. No, all of his disciples will be voted out. We'll get a Democrat in there. We can go back to bribing them and getting whatever the hell we want, right? So, how do you get the union to bust the line? How do you get someone in the union to bust the line? It's very simple, guys. The very first people to the table get the very best deal. The next country to the line gets the next best deal. The next country to the line gets the next best deal. If America does a deal with Vietnam that we're not going to charge any more tariffs on all of the Vietnamese product coming in here. And, you know, whatever. It doesn't have to be that good a deal for America. It has to be a lot better than it is, but it doesn't have to be that good. And all of a sudden, the dam breaks. And then, man, the Vietnamese economy took off. You'd see it in months. Just everyone would be going. You know how like Trump's having now, it's like every other day he's got a meeting with an executive. Someone's investing $100 million. Someone's investing $100 billion. Someone's investing just over and over every day. They've got $5 trillion of pledges. The same thing would happen to tiny little Vietnam. I mean, you would see it overnight. And then all of the other countries have to sit there and watch that. And then one more will break the dam. One more will break the strike. And as more people break the picket, the union collapses. And then all of a sudden, it's just a race to not be the loser who's firm on his principles and not negotiating. And all of a sudden, you're voted out of office, your country's destroyed, and half of the rest of the world is trading with America and doing very, very well. So this is how it's going to play out. I have no doubt, and you know, Trump and the team around him is just far smarter than me sitting here behind my computer screen. But that just seems very, very logical to me and very simple in how it's all going to play out. Game theory will solve this. There is, you know, I'm very, very conspiracy theory minded. And so is it true that, you know, Trump is a thorn in the side of the global elite and who wants to run the world and has been steering the world in this direction, right? And so they have a lot of power and influence with all of those countries. Just like this country, just like America, they own and control all of the different major political parties in all of those different countries as well. And so they can, on both sides, or many of them have like 3, 4, 5, 6 parties, they control all of them. And we can all be a unified front, and it can sound really good. But it just takes one single country to falter, to break the line. That country will explode. The next country will do it. The next country will do it. That's how it's going to play out. So I think this is a short-term blip. I think it's going to happen so much faster than the fearmongers start. I think something in the order of 1 to 2 years. There may be some headaches here in America. It could be, I think within kind of 6 to 12 months, I think you'll see a good chunk of the countries around the world have capitulated and said, yeah, let's just get a deal done and we'll work on it. And if not, during that time, it can cause some chaos and some pain for the American consumer, right? And I think they've got a plan for that because Trump's not going to enter this situation where he hasn't got all of his bases covered. So you've also heard him talk about, you know, Doge dividend checks and things like that. If the American consumer is hurting because of higher prices, then he'll just do what all the other countries do. I was like, okay, you guys are paying us all this tax. I'm going to give it to the consumers. And the consumers can spend it. Now, when they go to spend it, they can spend it on the expensive product with the tariff or the domestically made tariff. But so, you know, if the cheap foreign goods are out of business, if the cheap foreign goods are at the store, it has the same price as the locally made goods, right? They used to be like this, but after the tariffs, now they're like this, or maybe even like this. Well, you still got the revenue coming in, and you go and you pay off, and now they start buying their domestic products. So Trump would have thought about all of this. He knows how to, if it's a more prolonged situation than he wants it to be, he will have backup strategies and plans to help the American consumer to get themselves out of it. They'll pay dividend Doge checks, they'll print money, they'll hand out welfare, they'll do whatever it takes to help the American consumer through this period. I think it'll be a very short period, but if it is a prolonged period, he'll have a plan for it, and things are going to go very well in the markets. So how long does all this take to play out? I think it's really very quickly. It's 3, 6, 12 months. Because, well, hang on. That was with regards to Bitcoin price, what I'm saying. And here's why. Like I said earlier, it affects the foreign countries much, much more. You will see so many, the recession, let's say this causes a recession, let's say. If it causes a recession here, the old phrase, you know, if America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. Yeah, well, this is the rest of the world catching pneumonia, right? Like the amount of money that was going from America to all these countries all of a sudden just dries up, right? It's just gone. These countries go into big time recession, and their citizens will want their people's heads on a stick if they allow it to happen. It'll be get on the phone and negotiate with Trump. Now, lift these tariffs, we'll do whatever it takes. Oh, what does it take? Oh, we get to experience delicious American beef? Oh, this wasn't right. Why didn't we just say yes to start with? That's what's going to happen, right? And so sorry, if that recession, if it causes problems, there will be recession, depression everywhere. All of these countries are going to print money, just like Trump's going to do, right? They're going to print money in order to try and hold out and maintain the strike. The union's going to want to maintain the picket line. That means you've got to keep all your picketers fed. So the unions have to, sorry, the countries are going to print all this money to help their countries survive the transition. What does that mean to Bitcoin prices? Global liquidity goes up, Bitcoin price goes up. It's going to happen relatively quickly, okay? So my forecast is still that this is the next year, but maybe even extend it. We talked about a 4-year cycle. This is obviously a big macro stirring pot, and things are going pretty crazy right now. But I would say it's going to happen this year, but to give myself a little bit of luxury, I'll say in the next year or two, you'll see Bitcoin prices go absolutely ballistic because liquidity will go up for sure as a result of this tumultuous time. Guys, I hope that is helpful. I hope you understand it. Turn off the mainstream media. Just everything they say is stupid. It's embarrassing talking to them. And if you like this kind of video, I will be happily do them more often. It's so much fun talking about this stuff when really interesting things are happening. Politics is boring when everyone agrees and the global elites have control of everybody and they're marching us towards doom. It's both boring and depressing. This is inspiring. It's hopeful. It's fun. Will it work? It's never been tried before. It's fascinating. If you like this kind of content, comment below. I will do some more. Take care.